Welcome to Humble Brag. I'm Nate Mendel. And in honor of the new subscribers, many of which are not Jewish, I've decided to embark on a side project called Sacred Soundwaves. In this episode, I'm going to discuss what Sacred Soundwaves is, how you can benefit from it, and most of all, what it means to me. Break out your trumpets and trombones and enjoy our new intro. Jewish music is one of the biggest secrets in the world. I mean, everyone knows that Jewish music exists, just like every type of music exists, right? But Jewish music specifically is so close yet so far. You could listen to it on YouTube, Spotify, and every other channel. You could purchase the CDs, but unless you grew up in the Jewish community and you have a Torah/First Testament education, you won't really connect and understand what the meaning of the words are. This creates a complexity because while you might listen to the sound, while you may have an interest to understand and know what Jewish people are singing about, what their songs are all about, what their culture is all about, you can't quite grasp it because you don't understand the language, nor do you understand the culture. Even if you learn the language, or if you research the definitions, the true meaning and depth will continue to elude you. I have decided to embark on a small mission to decentralize, so to speak, Jewish music. And the way in which I am attempting to go about doing this, at least at its early stages now, is to take deeply meaningful Jewish music, to get it translated, and to upload it onto a playlist on YouTube. This is a long-term project. It would take time to gain traction and for people to fully appreciate the depth of what's taking place. But if we succeed in this mission, then we will successfully bring the healing power, beauty, and grace of Jewish music to the entire world. The reason this project is dear to me, the reason I'm interested in this project, the reason I'm embarking on this project isn't singular. There are a handful of reasons. Firstly, I love music. I love Jewish music. I love music in general. But I know through being into different genres that there's nothing like Jewish music when it comes to the mind, the heart, and the soul. Just like there's nothing like Jewish philosophy in terms of depth. Jews have really pioneered and gone the deepest when it comes to deep esoteric ideas, which consequently trickles down to its music as well. But the music encompasses so much more than just the philosophy of Judaism. It encompasses an entire culture, an entire worldview, an entire lifestyle, and so much more. If you've ever wondered why Jews are so successful, why they thrive, doesn't matter where they build their community thrives, how they've survived despite all the persecution throughout history, it's very difficult to understand. Sacred Soundwaves, by coming to understand what we're singing about, it will give you a glimpse into the mind of the Jewish person. How we think, what we think about, what we choose to spend our brain power on. Music is a reflection of culture. When you listen to hip-hop and they're singing about drugs, sex, money, materialism, that's a reflection of the culture, of the value system, of their desires and their aspirations. The same goes for every culture. If you listen to Christian music, they're yearning for Jesus and a connection there. Well, with Jewish music, through Sacred Soundwaves, you can now come to understand what we think about, what we yearn for, what we're concerned with, and how we go about living our life in deep reflection of musical sound. So again, I love music. I specifically love Jewish music. And I know firsthand, not conceptually, not theoretically, I know firsthand of its healing power. So that begs the question I ask myself, how can this be shared? Well, it's complicated, right? Why would somebody listen to music that is not in their language, especially if they don't understand it? Some people I've seen have gone so far as to try to track down lyrics and translate it themselves. But that shows true interest and true intrigue. But most people are not going to do that. So that's where Sacred Soundwaves come in. I will do it for you. Now, it's no simple task. One might think, big deal. Grab the Hebrew or Yiddish lyrics, translate it, throw it onto a generic video, and post it. What's the big deal? It should take less than an hour. But while theoretically that would be true, it isn't so. And it isn't so for two reasons. One, because I'm the one that's heading up the project. And number two, because of how I want to manifest the entire idea to the world. You see, within every song we choose, and we have some stacked up, we just started posting, but we have some that, that are being worked on. With every song that we choose, there is deep meaning and lessons, life lessons, spiritual lessons on potentially how to get close to God, how to heal, how to overcome, how to connect, so on and so forth. And to properly translate the lyrics without losing its literal meaning, but also to retain a poetic note is quite complex. It requires a certain level of creativity, which is another reason why I love the project and why I'm doing the project. I am a wordsmith of sorts. I love playing around with words. I don't think my local lexicon or immediate vocabulary is very high. That doesn't take away from the fact that I naturally love to play with words. When I was younger, I used to write simple poems. It's just a testament to how my brain thinks. So when I listen to a Jewish song and I'm thinking about what the translation is, I'm not just thinking about the literal translation, because in most cases, I know what the translation is. I grew up learning these things. A lot of the songs are quoting the Bible, are quoting Hasidus, are quoting certain things that rabbis and sages have said, or certain sentiments within the community. So I'm usually familiar with it already, intuitively, from when I'm 2 years old, 3 years old. We grow up into it. So the definition isn't everything. In fact, just the opposite. The definition is a small part of it. It's only interesting, and it could only do justice if it's poetically translated. And that's one of the reasons why there's a disclaimer on every video, or there will be, that states that it isn't a literal translation word for word, because if you do word for word translations, you will miss and you will lose the cultural meaning, the poetic vibe, so on and so forth. So the intricacies and the creativity involved in both translating it without losing its actual core meaning, but also retaining the poetic touch, is quite the challenge. It's quite the creative challenge, and that's what I love about it. I want to be involved in music. As human beings, we have to know what lifts us up. Music lifts me up. Music is extremely powerful, as I'm going to talk about shortly. But I'm not dedicating my life to music. I'm not going to become a singer, right? I'm not composing and creating music. I just love music. I love what it does to my soul, my mind, how it motivates me, how it inspires me, and where it takes me in life. So I asked myself, how can I be more involved in music without actually becoming a musician of any type? And this is the answer. By embarking on a project like this, it forces me to engage with the music. It also gives me the creative touch, as I discussed, with the wording and the translation. In many cases, I have to actually research. One of the first songs, I'm opening up the Chumash, the Old Testament, and I'm messaging my brother about the translation of one word, because I'm a very technical person. So I'm trying to get everything right to make sure that I'm not, misquoting anything or misunderstanding one little detail. All of these little activities just to bring about the lyrics for one song is a lot of fun. Anyway, enough about why it excites me. Let's talk about the power of music in general. Jewish music can be meditated to, literally. I sometimes, and I'll give you an example of how to do this. In some cases, I will literally put on an eye mask, or like a sleeping mask, whatever they're called, like an eye patch. There's a really good one. Maybe I'll link it in the description below. I'll put an Amazon link. I've bought like 3 of them. I have one in the US. I have one in Israel. I have one for travel. I'm obsessed with them. I sometimes do stretching / yoga with them on. I sometimes listen to music with them on. I sometimes obviously sleep with them. But to have a good eye mask that completely cuts out all light, thereby reducing input and sensation, It allows you to tone everything out and really, really meditate properly. I will sometimes either lay in bed or sit on a couch, or like I said, while I'm stretching, you put on the eye mask, you put on headphones, and you listen to music. And the repetition of this type of music is very important. You'll see some songs are just very repetitive. They're 2-3 clauses or statements or quotes or whatever they are, and they repeat over and over again. Now, you might find that to be somewhat boring and uninteresting, but the repetition is actually a very, very integral and important part of the healing process, of the meditation process. So there's a reason why it repeats itself over and over again. Your eyes are closed, you're thinking about the words, you're saying the words or you're repeating them, kind of like words of affirmation in repetition over and over. And the power and the actual energy, the quote unquote, like the angels that you're creating by speaking it out and putting it out in the universe, these positive vibes, actually begin to heal you, and they change your emotional makeup. If there are things that are not aligned, it can realign you, so on and so forth. So there's different ways to meditate to the music. I sometimes, like I said, I'll lay down in bed, put on the eye mask, listen to the music. And if I'm feeling a certain way, or if there's a certain song that's hitting a certain spot, I will listen to it over, and not just the song itself repeats. I will listen to the song over and over again to really, really etch it into my soul. And the healing power of these activities are unbeknownst to man. This is what I'm trying to bring out. Those who will adequately and properly indulge will yield its fruits, will benefit from it. And the best thing you could do is share it with others so that they too can benefit from its great healing power. This can be very, very powerful if you are depressed, heaven forbid. You feel like you've lost hope. If you're struggling for motivation, if you're struggling to find purpose, if you're just trying to seek out what your purpose and what your mission in life is, where you're going, where you're headed, where you come from, the things in the past that you have to overcome, the struggles that you have, the fears that you have, doesn't matter what it is. Jewish music, deep meditative music like this can heal you, can help you. You will come to learn and you will come to see that Jewish music, the words, the connotation and the meaning is almost on a romantic level with God and holiness. Orthodox Jews quite literally have a romantic relationship with God. Not in the physical sense that we think of it in the 21st century, in a holy capacity, in a spiritual capacity. In matter of fact, it puts to shame the low and grotesque physical reflection of romance that the world is obsessed with. It's deeply, deeply meaningful and spiritual and purposeful. As I mentioned in a previous video, I've heard it said, it was by some rabbi, I forget the name, that the romance that Hasidut introduced to the world in the 18th century is the energy that entered the world, that the world then took and materialized as the romance that we see in the 21st century in the secular world. Meaning to say, type of connection, this type of deep devotion and interconnectedness and oneness that we understand now relationally, human to human, didn't exist before. And it was brought into the world, it was introduced to the world through Hasidut to God. And once that energy was in the world essentially took it and romanticized it in the physical sense. But it just gives you a little bit of an understanding how close and meaningful and deep our relationship with our Creator is. And the world could greatly benefit by understanding this. Part of this description that I'm about to read is on the description of the playlist in YouTube. You could see it for yourself. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov taught that music is a powerful spiritual tool capable of transforming emotions, elevating souls, and connecting us to God. He emphasized that joy is essential to serving God, and music is one of the greatest sources of happiness. He said that holy melodies can uplift the spirit, turning sadness into joy and directing the heart toward the divine. He also warned against music devoid of holiness, which can confuse and harm the soul. So this is a very interesting point. He says that music that does not have holiness in it, that isn't holy, could actually harm us. Think about that for a moment. Rabbi Nachman emphasized that music heals the soul and the body, purifying emotions and restoring balance. We conclude with a statement that every soul carries a unique song, and aligning with that melody brings harmony to the universe. So Rabbi Nachman understood, in the depths of his understanding, that every soul carries a unique song, and when you align yourself with that melody, it brings about harmony in the universe as a whole. Rabbi Nachman saw music as a cosmic force capable of bringing divine connection and harmony when used with holiness and intention. So again, this project seeks to explore music that can heal, that can infuse a person with spirituality. There's so much of the other type of music. Trust me, I know, I indulge in all kinds of music myself. Nothing is like this. Nothing. So, thank you for being part of Humble Brag. I am humbled to be able to work on this project. If you enjoy the output of the project and the songs, feel free to share them. You never know whose life you can save, whose day you can improve, whose soul you can uplift by simply sharing a song with them. 2 more details I want to add. Now that I just finished rocking out a beautiful song, it reminded me of 2 details that I missed. There's a very, very fine nuance that you could only appreciate with time. And it speaks to why I'm translating the way that I'm translating. Number 1 is the small details. For example, the word oy, O-Y. The reason I include it in the lyrics is because it's actually a very important part of it. There are certain sounds, words, nuances that are part of the culture. Jews say oy. Oy is almost like a heartfelt sigh. Rabbi Nachman says about a heartfelt sigh. He has a whole lesson on it about the exhale and the inhale, essentially getting rid of negative energies and repairing. So little details like the word oy are all part of the puzzle. Another detail that I wanted to throw in there was that you'll notice that kosher music, typical Jewish music out of the Orthodox community, does not have any female singers. What they do is we use children to replace the high tones. So where you would typically have in non-Jewish music, you would typically have females taking high parts to create that nice, beautiful balance. By the Jews, you don't have that because Orthodox Jews are not allowed to listen to the voice of female singers. Instead, they use children, and it has a very similar effect. That's why you see men singing primarily all the songs and children filling in, or children singing the entire song. In any event, there's a lot of nuance, a lot of small detail that you will just simply not understand unless you really get into it and follow it and come to learn about it. But every little detail matters. So I hope you enjoy.
Leave a like and subscribe.